Lily whispering in a panic, "Father? No. Please, no. It can't be true. Marcelo, the Valois legacy ends tonight. Tell the world he's gone. Erase it all." Lily, through gritted teeth, "Take a good look at your kingdom, Marcelo. Because when I return, it won't be yours anymore." The most dangerous people in the world are not the ones who seek immediate revenge. They are the ones who disappear, learn everything, and return when no one is ready. 5 years ago, Paris was not a city of light for Lily Valois. It was a city that erased her without warning, where trust turned into silence overnight. Marcelo Duval, the man her father trusted most, committed a devastating betrayal. He did not just seize the family assets, but rewrote the entire Valois legacy into a public scandal that no one questioned. Lily was pushed to the brink, forced to choose between being destroyed or vanishing completely. She chose to vanish as a strategy, not an escape, because survival was never her goal, it was preparation. New York became her ideal camouflage, loud enough to disappear inside, and fast enough never to be noticed. At one of Manhattan's most exclusive restaurants, where billionaires frequently met to close high-stakes deals over coffee, Lily Valois began her new life under the name Lily Carter. She accepted the role of a quiet waitress, but she did not choose that place for money. She chose it for access. Her true target was Ethan Cole, a man of ultimate power whose negotiations controlled the world. For 6 months, she watched him from the shadows, learning how he thought, how he negotiated, and seeking the blind spot in his confidence where he trusted too easily. She understood that even the most powerful men have moments where they place their trust in the wrong people. On a high-pressure afternoon, when every conversation seemed controlled, one detail broke the pattern. At table 4, Ethan was holding a pen, poised to sign a contract, but he hesitated in a way that was unlike him. His translator was intentionally distorting the meaning of key clauses to redirect control of the company, and Lily saw it instantly because she had been trained by a world where mistakes like that do not happen by accident. Without rushing, she stepped forward as a waitress refilling water and spoke quietly but with absolute iron. "If you sign that, you are not closing a deal, you are giving away your company." Everything stopped. A heavy stillness filled the room as Ethan froze because of the absolute certainty in her voice. Lily did not wait for permission. She turned to the investors and used flawless French to dismantle every layer of deception, breaking the linguistic trap the translator had set. In that moment, the invisibility of Lily Carter ended, giving way to the powerful resurgence of Lily Valois. The private jet reached 30,000 feet, creating a space completely isolated from the outside world. In the luxurious cabin, the lights dimmed, leaving only Ethan and Lily facing each other across a polished table, with no staff or noise to distract them. Ethan watched her for a long time before breaking the silence with a cold observation. "You don't look like a waitress anymore." Lily responded with a direct gaze, never flinching. "I never was." Ethan recognized the total transformation in her, from her posture and movement to her refined voice, all traits that could not be learned overnight. He understood that what she did at his table was not a random act, but the result of disciplined preparation. Ethan quickly moved to the core business issue, the acquisition of the Lafayette Group in Paris. This was his biggest target, but Marcelo Duval was turning it into an impenetrable fortress. Lily insisted that Marcelo never plays by Wall Street rules. In Paris, deals don't just end in financial disputes, but can lead to far more catastrophic outcomes carried out quietly by people. Ethan questioned her true motive. "You used me to get back into Paris, didn't you?" Lily didn't flinch. She replied with cold fairness. "I needed access, and you needed a steel shield to ensure you didn't walk into Marcelo's billion-dollar trap. This is a fair symbiosis." Ethan admitted that Lily's linguistic sharp-wittedness and ability to read contracts were exactly what he lacked, especially as he was about to do business with the man who destroyed the Valois empire 5 years ago. However, with the nature of a billionaire, he issued a final challenge regarding trust. Lily answered with absolute confidence. "Because I gain nothing by lying to you now. If you go alone, Marcelo will surely win. If you go with me, you at least have a chance to turn the tables." Ethan nodded. The decision was made. She had 1 week to prove she was not a liability. He handed her the file on the Lafayette Group, and Lily immediately assessed that it was not a normal business company, but a cover for Marcello's crimes. "We won't just take it back. We'll make him give back everything he took," Ethan declared, looking out the jet window as the first lights of Paris appeared in the distance. The room did not welcome them. It assessed them from the very first steps they took through the massive, intricately carved oak doors. High society conversations suddenly softened, creating a calculated silence as Ethan Cole and Lily entered the gala hall of the Lafayette estate. They did not pause to admire the luxury of the gold-leafed walls, nor did they stare at the crowd. They moved with a cold confidence and a definitive purpose. Lily leaned in slightly toward Ethan, her voice barely audible over the gentle symphony. "This is not a simple party for drinking. This is a psychological battlefield where the old families of Paris will decide if you have the mettle for the Lafayette acquisition deal." Ethan adjusted his cuff, his sharp gaze scanning the room like a blade, reflecting the resolve of a billionaire who never backs down before any financial barrier. "Good. If they want to test to price me, let them begin." They had taken no more than 10 steps before the first obstacle appeared. Chloe Lafayette moved into their path with perfect timing, her entourage forming a silent but pressuring human wall behind her. She looked Ethan up and down, her smile carrying a subtle sneer. "So, the American investor finally shows up in person instead of hiding behind numbers on a screen." Ethan met her gaze without blinking, his voice steady yet authoritative. "I always prefer to personally evaluate the true value of assets before officially owning them." When Chloe mentioned that her father, Marcello, does not like surprises, Lily maintained a perfect silence. She was not just standing there as an assistant. She was playing the role of a strategic radar, scanning Chloe's every-minute expression to ensure Ethan did not miss a single dangerous signal in this power game. Chloe turned to look at Lily with disdain. "And who is this?" "A new accessory for Mr. Cole." Lily answered immediately, her voice calm but razor-sharp. "I am the person making sure that not a single detail gets lost in translation, especially the hidden clauses in the contracts that your people often use." Chloe stepped aside, giving way, but her eyes never left the two of them. At the center of the ballroom, beneath the most brilliant chandelier, Marcello Duval stood like a reigning king among his subordinates. When he saw Ethan and Lily approaching, Marcello stepped forward, an action that immediately made the airflow in the room tense. Marcello welcomed Ethan with a rigid, probing handshake. "Welcome to Paris, a place where numbers sometimes do not tell the whole truth." Marcello suddenly switched to French, his voice low and challenging. "Let us see how well you understand the very market you intend to devour." Lily did not show a single second of hesitation. She translated for Ethan with absolute precision, then immediately fired back at Marcello in a French that was classical and refined, a linguistic variant that existed only within the old aristocracy that Marcello had once destroyed. Marcello froze for a split second, his eyes narrowing in deep suspicion as he realized this voice carried the breath of the past. He growled, "Your accent, that is not something one can learn on the streets of New York." Lily met his gaze with the iron resolve of a Valois reclaiming territory. "Neither is your ambition something that can be bought with other people's money." Marcello warned that history tends to repeat itself and that strangers often do not meet good ends in this city. Lily responded with a cold, contemptuous smile. "History only repeats for those too complacent to learn from their own mistakes. As for me, I am here to rewrite its ending." The music in the hall continued to swell rhythmically, but the atmosphere around Ethan and Lily began to thicken under the pressure of hidden agendas. Conversations among the elite grew tighter and sharper, and probing glances followed them as Ethan was drawn into a circle of investors, advisors, and the true power players of Paris. This was no longer a common social gathering. It was a political chessboard where billion-dollar deals were decided with silent nods or unvoiced refusals. Lily stepped back, once, then twice, intentionally distancing herself from Ethan's aura to fulfill her role as a strategic assistant. She did not interrupt or seek attention. She stood there like a silent but vigilant shadow, her sharp eyes scanning every reflection in the glass, the mirrors, and the polished marble of the ballroom for any sign of threat. Suddenly, a familiar electric chill ran down Lily's spine. She felt a gaze that was not accidental. It was possessive, skeptical, and calculating. You should not walk alone in rooms like this. The voice was low, coming from right behind her, carrying a terrifying confidence. Lily did not turn immediately. She let the silence hang for a moment, forcing the other person to wait before facing Marcelo Duval. Marcelo stood very close, enough to control the space around her, his eyes working tirelessly to connect fragmented memories of a silhouette that had vanished without a trace 5 years ago. He brought up her aristocratic French accent again, something he claimed he hadn't heard in a very long time since the fall of the Valois family. Lily responded with a face so calm it made Marcelo doubt himself, asserting that people often have a tendency to forget unimportant things. But Marcelo gave a cold smile. Not the important ones. He began to probe deeper, asking directly about her true identity beneath the mask of an assistant. Instead of answering, Lily issued a sharp warning. I am someone you should never underestimate. The linguistic confrontation turned tense as Lily accused Marcelo of stealing his way into his current position rather than building it himself. Marcelo tried to intimidate her with the brutality and unforgiving rules of Paris, but Lily stepped forward half a step, closing the distance to prove she was no longer the weak girl of the past. At that moment, Marcelo delivered a fatal blow to gain complete control over her. He mentioned family, specifically about fathers. When Lily stated her father had passed away, Marcelo shook his head slowly and spoke in a deathly whisper. No, he is not. Those words landed on Lily like a 1,000-pound stone, forcing her to struggle fiercely to maintain her cold mask. Marcelo admitted he kept her father alive because he was a necessary living asset for unlocking the Valois trust through a retinal scan. He ordered her to come to his office at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning if she wanted to see him safe. As Marcelo vanished into the crowd with a triumphant air, Lily stood still, her breathing steady, but her mind spinning at an incredible speed. Ethan returned, immediately noticing the shift in his partner's eyes. Lily looked at him, her determination now transformed into an irreversible plan of action. He made his move, and tomorrow, we will end this game. The lobby of the Lafayette headquarters was eerily quiet. Everything was too clean, too controlled, as if it were trying to hide the massive debts and dark secrets within. Lily walked without slowing down, her heels clicking decisively on the marble floor. Ethan walked beside her, his face showing the intense focus of an investor preparing for a decisive strike. He spoke softly. We can still choose a different legal path to take over this place. Lily didn't look at him, her eyes locked on the elevator doors. No, Marcelo has made this a personal war. We must end it his way. As the elevator doors opened on the top floor, a long corridor led to the only office already standing open. Marcelo stood by the window, his back turned to them, looking down at the panorama of Paris like a man holding the city's destiny. Lily did not wait for a social greeting. She walked straight into the center of the room. Where is my father? Marcelo turned slowly, the smile on his lips full of mockery. Still as direct as ever. That's why you survived those 5 years in New York. Ethan stepped forward, cutting through Marcelo's smugness. You said you'd show her proof. Don't waste my time. Marcelo looked at Ethan with disdain, but Ethan fired back with a weighted assertion. I am the only person capable of acquiring Lafayette and saving you from financial ruin, or the one who will send you to prison. Be careful with your choice. Marcelo shifted his gaze to Lily, tossing a file onto the desk. He admitted her father was alive but being held at the St. Cloud facility because he was too stubborn. Marcelo explained that the Valois Trust could not be opened with codes or passwords. It required biometric access via the retinal scan of the heir or owner. He needed Lily to convince her father to unlock that treasure. A fair trade. Marcelo laughed. You get your father, I get the money. Ethan immediately rejected that, asserting his goal was to take over Lafayette cleanly, without extortion. Lily picked up the photo of her father, her hands trembling slightly, but her eyes razor-sharp. She memorized the information about St. Cloud and looked at Marcelo one last time. You have 24 hours to enjoy this office. As the elevator doors closed, Ethan looked at Lily and nodded. We aren't doing this his way. We're taking it all back tonight. Tonight's auction was not merely about luxury jewelry. Lily knew it was a key pawn in Marcelo's grand scheme. The Valois Emerald was his ticket to securing a government contract worth billions. A senior official was waiting in the private box above, and Marcelo had promised this gem as a gift in exchange for political protection and control of the port project, a deal that would bury the Valois case forever. Ethan looked at the emerald under the glass, his face hardening. So that's why he needs it. It's not a necklace tonight. It's a bribe. Lily nodded, her gaze cold. Exactly, and we do not let him leave with it. The auction hall was packed, the silence heavy with suffocating tension. Marcelo sat in the front row, confident as if he already owned the room. When the auctioneer opened at $10 million, Marcelo raised his paddle immediately. 15. He wasn't just buying a stone. He was performing a display of power to intimidate anyone who dared oppose him. However, Ethan did not let him relish the moment for long. He raised his paddle and declared a figure that stunned the entire room. 40. Every eye turned toward Ethan. Marcelo froze, the smile on his lips fading, as he realized his opponent had no intention of backing down. The price were escalated rapidly. Marcelo tried to keep up with 45 million, but Ethan immediately delivered a cold blow. 60. Lily watched Marcelo, noticing his hands tightening around the paddle and his anxious glances toward the VIP box above. That was the moment his backer, Marcelo's final lifeline, began to pull away. Marcelo desperately pushed the price to 65 million, but Ethan finished it with a direct strike. 70. The hammer hit, sharp and ruthless. Ethan and Lily walked past a Marcelo silenced by failure. Lily leaned in, whispering into his ear, "Money buys objects, not loyalty. And tonight, you lost both." Marcelo had lost everything: the emerald, the official, and the respect of the Parisian elite. The road to St. Cloud was swallowed in dense darkness, with no traffic and only the sound of the wind as the SUV's headlights cut through the thick fog. Lily sat in the back, dressed in black, her hands tightly interlaced, and her eyes locked on the path ahead. Ethan sat beside her, constantly checking his watch and the security control screen. "We have a 5-minute window before Marcelo's backup team can react." Lily nodded, determination clear on her face. "Then we won't waste a single second." As the vehicle approached the old iron gates, Ethan's security team faced their first obstacle: a thermal sensor system and 2 guards patrolling behind the rusted iron. Ethan's team quickly neutralized the communication system and silenced the guards, but Lily immediately sensed something wrong. "He's letting us in." These gates opened too easily. They moved inside the building, where the space radiated a terrifying cleanliness and smelled strongly of disinfectant. There were no medical staff and no noise, only the sound of their footsteps echoing down the stark white corridor. Ethan ordered his security team to check the basement and fire escapes while he and Lily headed toward room 402 based on their intelligence. As they drew near, a false alarm went off, forcing the team into a defensive stance, but it was merely a psychological tactic from Marcelo. Ethan kicked open the door to room 402, but the interior was completely empty. There was no hospital bed and no medical equipment, only a single chair placed by the window. Lily stepped forward, touching the seat and feeling the warmth still lingering. "He just moved him, right before we arrived." Amidst the heavy silence, Lily discovered a small folded piece of paper on the table. She opened it and found a handwritten line full of hidden meaning. Ethan feared this was a setup to destroy them on the spot, but Lily shook her head, her eyes sharply analyzing every word. "This isn't an address. It's a defiant message." She realized that Marcelo wanted them here to witness this failure, a cat-and-mouse game intended to erode their spirit. As the footsteps of the backup forces began to echo from a distance, Ethan grabbed Lily's hand. "We have to withdraw immediately." They returned to the car as the fog grew even thicker. Ethan was frustrated at missing the target, but Lily asserted with certainty, "He thinks he is leading the game, but that very complacency will drive him to us. The real game is only just beginning." Dawn had not yet fully broken. The sky above the private airfield was nothing but a strip of cold, gray light. The SUV engines cut out, giving way to a tense silence that stretched across the vast runway. From the shadows of the jet, Marcelo Duval stepped down, his demeanor as calm and confident as a man holding all the trump cards. He was not running. He was waiting for them. Ethan and Lily stepped out of the vehicle, Lily's gaze as sharp as a blade, locked onto the man who had destroyed her family. She went straight to the point, her voice unshaken despite standing on enemy territory. "Where is my father?" Marcelo smiled, a sneer full of contempt at her urgency. He explained that moving her father from St. Cloud was merely part of a larger design. "You walked into every move I set, from the gala to the medical facility." But his true purpose tonight was not just about the hostage. Marcelo revealed the ledger, the document containing every shadow transaction, shell company, and political name her father had meticulously built. Marcelo needed Lily not as an accessory, but to convince her father to cooperate with the retinal scan to release the funds from that ledger. He believed that Lily's presence here, under his control, was the final piece to force her father's submission. However, Marcelo had made a fatal error. He was too confident in his power, forgetting that Ethan Cole was a formidable player in the financial world. When Marcelo pulled out his phone, threatening to expose incriminating evidence against her father if she refused to cooperate, Lily simply raised her own device. She pressed play. Marcelo's own voice filled the still air, clearly admitting to the illegal detention and the conspiracy to seize the assets. Ethan coldly delivered the final blow. This recording, along with the dirty financial data of Lafayette, was sent to every media outlet and international police agency 10 minutes ago. Sirens began to wail in the distance, cutting through the fog of the runway. Marcelo stared at Lily, his triumph vanishing, replaced by the look of a cornered beast. As the police closed in, Lily stepped close to him, her voice low but powerful. "You thought you were playing chess with us, but you were only digging your own grave." Marcelo was led away in disgrace, and Lily knew that the first layer of the truth had finally been stripped away. 1 month after the police sirens at the airfield fell silent, Paris seemed to have changed in an invisible way. The city did not grow louder or quieter, but the currents of power flowing beneath the marble-paved avenues had truly shifted. The Valois mansion, after 5 years of darkness and occupation by strangers, was brilliantly lit once again tonight. The ancient stone walls still stood firm, overlooking the calm Seine River, but inside, the breath of life had been revived. Lily Valois stood on the expansive balcony, no longer the waitress from Manhattan, nor the strategic assistant hidden in modest business suits. She wore an elegant black silk gown, her eyes overlooking the shimmering panorama of Paris at night. When the sound of the sliding glass door echoed behind her, Lily did not need to turn to know who it was. Her father stepped out, though his frame was thinner after his days of captivity. His stride was much steadier. He looked at his daughter with undisguised pride. "You have come back stronger than any of us ever expected." Lily took her father's hand, her voice firm. "I didn't just come back to visit. I came back to ensure that no one can ever touch our legacy again." At that moment, a gentle knock sounded, and Ethan Cole entered the father and daughter's space with the poise of a man who had just won the biggest deal of his career. In his hand was a small velvet box, the container for the Valois emerald he had successfully auctioned. Ethan approached Lily. Without redundant social pleasantries, he opened the box and placed the gemstone in her hand. "It belongs here, and it belongs to you," Ethan said, his gaze reflecting his respect for the partner who had helped him overthrow Marcelo. Lily fastened the emerald around her neck. Its weight felt like the final symbol of a restored inheritance. Ethan looked toward the Eiffel Tower glowing in the distance and smiled slightly. "The Lafayette deal is complete. The shareholders have agreed to merge under the management of the Cole Group, and your father will be the supreme strategic advisor in Paris." This was not just a personal victory for Lily, but also a massive strategic leap for Ethan. He had captured the French market using Lily's sharp-wittedness, and she had reclaimed her family using his resources. Lily looked at Ethan, her smile truly sincere this time. Paris hasn't changed, but the power now lies in hands that deserve it more. As the Parisian night moved toward dawn, Lily Valois stood between her father and Ethan, the two men representing her glorious past and her brilliant future. She was no longer running. She was here, at the center of a new empire, ready to write the next chapter of a legend that had once been forgotten.